And welcome back, my friends. So I wanted to take this beautiful afternoon and dedicate it to helping you successfully practice semen retention. So before I begin this video, I'm going to assume that you are familiar with the benefits and why this is a valuable practice and the problems that are associated with compulsive self-pleasuring X, Y, and Z. You are aware of the benefits, and if you are not, you can subscribe to my channel because I have listed several other videos that go into this detail. But fundamentally, this video is dedicated to how you can successfully do this over a long period of time. Perhaps you're experiencing relapses, perhaps this is not going as well as you planned, and I'm going to help you with your approach. So the first thing we need to establish before anything is that semen retention, or the practice of semen retention, is not a practice. It is not a active thing. This is a scarcity mindset, and I'm going to tell you what I mean in just a moment. But before we do so, I'm going to read from one of my books that is going to help give you some perspective into why you are consistently seeing failures and why this isn't going to why this practice hasn't yet been fruitful for you. So the first thing to understand is, if you are going into this with knowledge of the benefits, you are approaching this in the wrong way. I know you've probably heard this a number of times before, and you are only in for the benefits, and that's fair enough. Many people would not be interested in this practice if it didn't provide fruit, which is okay. But it's not so much the benefits, but it's the attachment to them, it's the clinging to them. And I'm going to tell you what I mean in a moment, because we must recognize that it is a renunciation. Okay, if you are watching this video, I am very sure that you are into personal development, that you are perhaps already lifting weights, that you are trying to consciously eat better, that you are perhaps meditating or fasting or taking cold showers. You are interested in making yourself better. You want to be a better human being. You want to be the best version of insert your name. You want to be the best Joseph. I'm Joseph. And that is a very admirable way to conduct your life, and you are in the right place. You're among good company here. What you will begin to realize when you move forward in this journey is that there comes a point where you have added things like lifting weights or cold showers, where you hit a ceiling, okay? And the addition of stuff coming in is not taking you forward. And what you actually will come to the realization is that the renunciation, that stopping, is actually starting, if you get my meaning. So it's not so much a practice, it's a renunciation, it's a taking away, it's a conscious refrainment from that thing. Okay, so you're consciously refraining from ejaculation. If you go into the mindset of adding these things like women attraction, adding these things like deeper voice, adding these things like greater energy and mental clarity and things like that, you will fail. And the reason you will fail is because it comes from a mindset of clinging, of attachment. Like I said, this is a renunciation, and I'm gonna give you a story in one of my books here that will help you with clarity in this. And this is the Path to God, Living the Bhagavad Gita by one of my mentors, Ramdas, who has passed on. Now, the reason I'm using this book to illustrate my point is because it really hits home that mentality you need to have when you're beginning to go down this path of renunciation, okay? And my mentor uses the example of fasting, okay? So you can think of fasting in the same way you can think of semen retention. That renunciation, that conscious refrainment from ejaculation, is a form of fasting. You know, if you're fasting from food, you're fasting from that indulgence of eating food. So you're just fasting from the pleasure associated with sex. Okay? So my mentor was in India, and he realized when he was among some of these religious folk and practitioners of Indian scripture and Hinduism, excuse me, that a great deal of them fasted, and he wanted to incorporate fasting into his life, okay? And he describes how when he began fasting, that when he was going by his day-to-day basis, all he could ever think about was food. All he could think about was what he was going to break his fast with, what the next meal was going to be, and how he was going to indulge in all this food once the fast was over. Okay? And he goes on to explain that when you approach it in a way that you are in it for the benefits. He talks about how he felt how holy he was because he was fasting. Oh, I fasted for 3 days. I'm so holy. I'm so enlightened. I'm so one with God. I'm so in alignment. This was the internal narrative that was happening within him. Okay? And he begins to explain how he wasn't actually fasting. He wasn't actually committing to this path in his truth. And he finishes the story with a quote which I'll never forget, because it's really profound, and this is the kind of the crux of the video here. He did fasting on another occasion, and he was so busy with the day-to-days of his life and helping people and doing all the actions and behaviors and habits that were in congruency with his spiritual practices and his faith and helping the community, things like that, that he realized he had fasted for 5 days without knowing it. And how that was the clicking moment to realizing what renunciation really meant, what fasting really meant. And he summarized it by this line, that fasting isn't about renouncing food, it's about renouncing hunger. And you can extrapolate that to the practice of semen retention. It's not about renouncing sex or renouncing masturbation. It's about renouncing your attachment to the pleasure. Okay? What do I mean by that? It might seem a bit far out. So, it's that clinging to those benefits and understanding that this will put you on the back foot. It will put you in a frame of reactivity. Reactivity is the external world affecting you and you being unconscious of your behaviors in reaction to that. You want to approach it from the other way around. You want to understand and be grounded in your principles that you are renouncing pleasure, so that when the world, as it naturally does, puts up that stimuli in form of pornography or soft pornography, that you can recognize the emotion, the energy in motion of arousal, of that sexual energy that is building up inside you, and you can watch it objectively without being reactive to it. Okay? You can watch it objectively. If I go into detail about how pervasive pornography is in our culture, because you can't go a day without seeing a desperate Facebook photo or a twerking Instagram influencer or whatever the case may be. But when that happens to you and that energy rises up inside you, you can see that sexual energy, you can watch it objectively, and you can see it for what it is. You can notice the effects it has on you. The heat in the top of your chest, the shunting of blood to the sexual organs, and you can watch it and you can just be objective in it and just notice it. And then if you are grounded in your principles, you will be able to come to the rationality. You use your rational brain here and say, I'm in a practice of renunciation at the moment, and I'm giving up my attachment to this sensation. I hope I'm being clear with my communication of the mentality and how you need to approach these things, because it's so important that you don't go into this on the back foot, that you go into it with scarcity, that you go into it counting days. Counting days is the worst. I tried counting days in it, and it really emphasizes and beautifully illustrates that cling behavior, that, oh, day 7, day 8, what does day 30 mean? Does day 30 mean I'm getting women attraction? It comes from a scarcity mindset, okay? And if you're just doing that to get an extra day, to get to the extra week, to get to the extra milestone, you will fail, because you're coming at it from an approach that something outside of you can affect your internal state of being. You need to be stoic, you need to be stone-faced, you need to be unmoved, you need to be unreactive, you need to be grounded. It's something to meditate on, something to consider. And with that, my friends, if you found anything valuable in this video, feel free to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you very soon in the next video.